Hey, it's Jeziel here for another episode of Table Talk, where we get short answers for tall topics. And joining us today, it is Sally Hewitt from Aging Gratefully. How you going?
I'm great, thanks, Jeziel. How about yourself?
Very good. You can see the smile on my dial.
Yeah.
I'm very grateful. Grateful
Excellent.
to be in full health and sitting here with you today. But what are you bringing to the table?
So today we're still obviously talking about aging gracefully lifestyle, but specifically around hope, because obviously we're in this time of Advent leading up to Christmas. And I've been reading this fabulous Advent devotional, and I actually wanted to share this particular sentence that really, really spoke to me. And she writes, "Hope helps us cope with the baffling messiness of life because we trust that God is always for us, and that's what really matters." And, you know, we talk a lot about hope on 98.5, and what I really love about this quote is that it reminds us that regardless of what is going on in our lives, God is always for us. Because, you know, Christmas is a really special time of year for us, but it can be a very challenging time also for people. And, you know, this might be the first Christmas that somebody is spending it without a significant, other in their life. The cost of living's gone up, so maybe, you know, people are finding it more expensive. So there will be people out there who also find this time of the year challenging. And I think what this couple of sentences tells us is that God is with us, that God understands, that God sent his son to be, to be into this world for us. And I think there's a lot of comfort to be taken from that.
Helps centre us as well. So then if we're talking about hope and gratitude, how are the two connected?
Oh, well, they're very much related. They're both virtues, of course, but I also believe that when we look for things to be thankful for each day, it really builds our hope muscle. Because of the fact that it's a virtue as well, having that hopeful attitude is wrapped up in being grateful. So when we are intentionally grateful about something, it brings us back to the fact that we have been the receiver of something. And, you know, so often it's unexpected. And even, we've spoken about being intentional and looking for things to be intentionally grateful for.
The jacaranda trees.
Yes, exactly, exactly. And so what that tells us is that God's at work all around us as well. And that, by actually noticing it means that it's there and there are other things that are there. And when we bring gratitude into the equation, we're noticing it then we are hopeful, because being hopeful is sort of like this expectant desire. So we become hopeful and expectant about the same or even better again because it's unexpected. Does that make sense?
I do get that. How then can we remain hopeful? You mean, you're from Aging Gratefully.
Yeah.
As we get older, some would say, some, not all, might get cynical. So how do we remain hopeful as we age?
And, I think hope plays a really important part in overcoming that cynicism that can, seep in as we get older. Because if you think about how you feel when you have that expectant hopefulness, there's a real youthfulness about it. And so when we sort of lean into that, I think that it really helps us remain curious, and that is such an important part of aging well. Remaining curious, remaining open, because things are changing all the time, and there's always things for us to learn from other generations, whether they're older or younger than us. Remaining curious keeps that side open for us. So, being hopeful, maintaining that expectancy for things being okay or better keeps that open. And, when we come back to what we were talking about earlier, the quote that I had, when we really, truly believe that God is for us, we can always have that hope, and that's why I'm sure the Bible calls hope the anchor for our soul, because knowing that God is always for us, knowing that he's always on our side, regardless of whether we are in a summer season or a winter season, depending on the cycle that we're in life, that gives us hope for tomorrow, hope for an hour's time, and we can cultivate that. I think that's what's really exciting about these virtues like hope and gratitude. They are virtues that we can cultivate, we can be intentional about, and build on.
Yeah,
make
great.
Them habits.
Because if it's just you lose it, you find it, then it's like, oh no. You mentioned seasons. You might be going through summer, not physical seasons. What if someone is going through a winter right now, going through winter, and also, for a lot of people, it's the happiest time of year. What can we do to bring hopefulness into that situation?
Yeah.
Even though it seems like there is no hope.
Yeah, that's such a good question, because, this is what makes this time of year challenging for some people. And I think one of the most important things is to recognize it for ourselves. The thing about being grateful is it's not something that you can just, it's not a happy clappy thing. Do you know what I mean? You can't just say, will it. You can't just say, I'm grateful. I'm really grateful this is happening to me right now. That isn't the point of it at all. So it's actually acknowledging that you're in that season rather than actually fighting it. Sometimes just acknowledging that this is this season right now can actually be quite liberating.
Right.
But to not actually stay there. So to recognize it and to give it the validation that it needs for your own self-worth, but obviously as Christians handing it over to God, and also using the tools that we've spoken about before now to look for something that shines a light in that particular season. Something really small. It doesn't have to be huge. Something that you could do for somebody else. Being of service is actually one of the greatest benefits for ourselves, and we've spoken about this before now, for ourselves. And that can be so helpful when we are going through one of our winter seasons. To actually give of ourselves to someone else is incredibly rewarding and helps us, helps our own self-esteem.